The night Ethan Cole broke down that warehouse door, he thought he'd found a corpse. Instead, he found the woman who would destroy his life or save it. She was lying there in the dark, bruised, broken, unable to move. A stranger. Or so he thought. What he didn't know was that the paralyzed woman whispering, "Help me," in that abandoned Chicago warehouse was worth $3 billion. That her own fiancé had tried to murder her. That saving her would put a target on his daughter's back. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this story gets darker before it gets light. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let me tell you what really happened that October night, when a broke single dad became the only thing standing between a billionaire heiress and her grave. She's still breathing. That's what Ethan told himself when he found her, because if she wasn't breathing, he'd have to call the cops, and calling the cops meant questions he couldn't answer about why he was in the restricted wing of a condemned warehouse at 2 a.m. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness, landing on her face. Pale, hollow, eyes half open but not seeing. Her lips moved, forming words without sound. Ethan dropped to his knees beside her. Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her eyes focused, barely, her mouth opened. "Don't." The word came out like broken glass. "Don't call them. I have to get you help." "No." Her hand shot out, fingers wrapping around his wrist with surprising strength. "They'll find me." Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. This wasn't right. None of this was right. The locked door, the mattress on the floor, the bruises circling her wrists like dark bracelets. "Who will find you?" She didn't answer, her grip loosened, hand falling back to her side. Ethan pulled out his phone. His thumb hovered over 911. "Please?" Her voice cracked. "He'll kill me. He'll kill anyone who helps me." That's when Ethan made the worst decision of his life. Or maybe the best. He still doesn't know. He didn't call. Ethan had clocked in at Riverside Distribution Center at 10 p.m., same as always. The building had been empty for 3 years, waiting for some developer to gut it and turn it into luxury condos. Until then, it needed a night watchman to make sure squatters didn't set it on fire. Perfect job for a man with no other options. The pay was garbage, $12 an hour, no benefits, no future. But it kept the lights on in his apartment. Kept Lila in school with decent shoes and a winter coat that didn't have holes. That's all that mattered anymore. His supervisor, a guy named Rodriguez, who spent most of his shift sleeping in the front office, had handed him the keys and a checklist at the start of the shift. "Same as always, Cole. Check the doors. Replace any burned-out bulbs. Call me if anything's on fire or bleeding. Otherwise, don't call me." "Got it?" "And stay out of the northwest section. Building inspector says the floor's unstable." Ethan had nodded, grabbed his maintenance cart, and headed into the belly of the warehouse. The place was massive. Football fields of empty space, broken conveyor belts, offices with smashed windows and graffiti on the walls. During the day, it probably looked sad. At night, it looked haunted. He'd made his rounds through the main floor, checking doors, replacing burned-out bulbs in the emergency exits. The storm had rolled in around midnight, rain hammering the metal roof like bullets. Thunder that made the whole structure groan and sway. Ethan had been replacing a light fixture near the old break room when he heard it. At first he thought it was the wind. Old buildings make noise, settling foundations, loose panels, rats the size of small dogs. But then it came again, clearer this time. A voice, weak, female, crying. The hair on the back of his neck stood up. Ethan had followed the sound to the northwest corner, the section Rodriguez had told him to avoid. His boots crunched on broken glass. Water dripped from cracks in the ceiling, forming puddles that reflected his flashlight beam. The crying was louder now, more desperate. That's when he found the door. It was tucked behind a pile of rotting pallets, almost invisible in the shadows. Heavy metal door with no window. And on it, a padlock that gleamed new and silver in the beam of his flashlight. Someone had put that lock there recently. Very recently. Ethan's hands had gone cold. Every instinct told him to walk away. Call Rodriguez. Let someone else deal with whatever was behind that door. But the crying continued, broken, terrified. He thought about Lila, about how he'd feel if she was trapped somewhere calling for help and someone just walked away. Ethan grabbed a crowbar from his maintenance cart. The lock broke on the third hit, metal snapping with a sound like a gunshot. He pushed the door open. The smell hit him first. Sweat-fear urine, something medicinal and wrong. Then his flashlight swept across the room and he saw her. A woman on a thin mattress. Hospital gown. Tangled dark hair. So thin her collarbones looked like they might break through her skin. And her eyes. God, her eyes. They locked onto him with an expression somewhere between hope and terror. "Help me," she whispered. "Please help me." Ethan carried her to his truck. She weighed nothing, bones wrapped in skin, wrapped in a hospital gown that had probably been white once. Her head lolled against his shoulder. He could feel her ribs through the thin fabric. "What's your name?" he asked, laying her across the back seat as gently as he could. "Isabel." "Isabel what?" She closed her eyes. "Just Isabel." "Who did this to you?" Can't tell you." "Isabel, I need to know." "No." Her eyes snapped open, suddenly fierce, despite the weakness in her voice. "You can't know. If you know, you're dead." Ethan climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely grip the steering wheel. He drove through empty streets, rain blurring the windshield. Every red light felt like a trap. Every police car a threat. His mind screamed that this was insane, that he should turn around, drive straight to a hospital, let professionals handle this. But her words echoed in his head. "They'll find me. He'll kill me." Who were they? Who was he? What had this woman gotten tangled up in? And why the hell was he getting tangled up in it too? His apartment was above Wong's laundromat on Kedzie Avenue. One-bedroom kitchen the size of a closet bathroom with tiles that hadn't been white since the Nixon administration. The whole place smelled like detergent and old plumbing. But it was home. It was safe. Or at least it had been safe until tonight. He got her upstairs, laid her on his bed. She was shivering, teeth chattering despite the warmth of the apartment. Ethan grabbed every blanket he owned, piled them on top of her. She looked even smaller buried under all that fabric. Like a child. Like Lila. "I'm going to call a doctor," Ethan said. "A friend. Someone who won't ask questions." "No doctors. You need medical attention. Your legs—" "I know about my legs." Her voice cracked. "I know I can't feel them. I know I can't move them. A doctor can't fix that right now." "How do you know?" "Because the man who did this to me is a doctor. He knew exactly where to hurt me." Ethan sat back on his heels, a cold weight settling in his stomach. What kind of person are you running from? The kind who always wins. Isabel's breathing was labored, each word an effort. The kind who has money and power and friends in very high places. The kind who won't stop until I'm dead. Then why keep you alive this long if he wants you dead? Because bodies are evidence. Disappearances are cleaner. She coughed a wet sound that made Ethan wince. He's waiting for me to die on my own. Natural causes, starvation, infection. Take your pick. Ethan stood paced to the window. Outside, Chicago sprawled in the darkness, lights glittering like scattered diamonds. Somewhere out there was a man who'd done this. A man who would do worse if he found out Ethan had interfered. "Do you have a daughter?" The question made him turn around. "How did you—" "The car seat. In your truck. Pink. With princesses." Isabel was watching him with those intense eyes. "How old?" "That's none of your business." "If they find me here, they'll hurt her. Do you understand? They'll hurt your little girl to get to me. To silence me. To make sure no one ever knows what happened." Ethan felt something cold slide down his spine, vertebra by vertebra. Then I'll take you somewhere else, a shelter, a hospital in another city. There is nowhere far enough, nowhere safe enough. Isabel's hand reached out, grabbed his wrist again. Her grip was surprisingly strong. If you help me, you're putting yourself in danger. If you turn me in, I'm dead. If you call the police, we're both dead. Do you understand the position we're in? No, I don't understand any of this. Ethan pulled away from her grip, ran his hands through his hair. I don't understand who you are, or what you did, or why someone would... I didn't do anything. The shout surprised both of them. Isabel's face crumpled. I didn't do anything except be born rich, except inherit money I never asked for, except trust the wrong person. Tears streamed down her face. Real ugly broken tears. Ethan had seen a lot of pain in his life. He'd watched his wife die in a hospital bed hooked up to machines that beeped until they didn't. He'd held Lila while she cried for her mother night after night for months. He thought he understood suffering. But the look on Isabel's face was different. It was the look of someone who'd stared into hell and realized hell was staring back. Please, she whispered. Just for tonight. Let me stay tonight. Tomorrow I'll figure something out. Tomorrow I'll leave. Just don't make me go back there. Don't make me die in that room alone. Ethan wanted to say no, wanted to protect himself and Lila from whatever nightmare this woman had dragged into his life. But he'd spent 3 years raising his daughter alone, teaching her to be kind, to help people who needed help, to stand up when everyone else sat down. How could he look Lila in the eye tomorrow if he threw a dying woman back into the dark? One night, he said finally. You can stay one night, but tomorrow we figure this out. We go to the police or the FBI or whoever handles this kind of thing. Isabel nodded, but they both knew she was lying. She'd already passed out again, body finally giving in to exhaustion. Ethan stood there for a long moment watching her breathe. In and out. In and out. Each breath a small miracle considering what she'd been through. Then he grabbed a pillow and a thin blanket and headed for the couch. He didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. Every sound made him jump. Every car passing on the street outside made him think they'd found her already. That men were coming up the stairs. That everything was about to fall apart. Around 5 in the morning, he got up and checked on her. Still breathing. Still unconscious. Her face looked younger in sleep, less haunted. She couldn't have been more than 30. Who was she really? And why did looking at her make him feel like he was standing at the edge of a cliff? Lila noticed immediately. Daddy, why is there a lady in your bed? Ethan was making breakfast scrambled eggs toast the usual. He'd spent the night on the couch sleeping in 20-minute intervals, jumping at every sound. His body ached. His head pounded. He'd called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. She's sick, baby. She needed a place to stay. Lila was 9 years old, gap-toothed, with her mother's dark eyes and his stubborn chin. She wore her school uniform plaid skirt, white shirt, navy cardigan, and had her backpack already slung over one shoulder. She looked at him with that expression she got when she knew he was lying, but was too polite to say so. Is she your girlfriend? No. Is she homeless? It's complicated. Lila walked to the bedroom door, peeked inside. Isabel was still asleep, buried under blankets. Only her face was visible, pale against the pillow. She looks like a princess, Lila whispered. A sad princess. Ethan pulled her back gently. Don't bother her, okay? She needs rest. Is she going to die like Mommy? The question hit him in the chest. Lila asked it so casually, like she was asking about the weather. That's what 3 years of grief counseling got you, a child who could talk about death without flinching. No, baby, she's not going to die. Promise. Ethan wanted to promise, wanted to tell his daughter that everything would be okay, that the world was safe, that bad things didn't happen to good people. But he'd learned the hard way that those were lies. I'm going to do everything I can to help her, he said instead. That's the best promise I can make. Lila nodded, satisfied. Can I bring her breakfast? He should have said no. should have kept Lila as far from this mess as possible. But his daughter had her mother's heart too big, too kind, too quick to love broken things. And maybe in some way, Ethan couldn't explain he needed Lila's kindness right now. Needed to believe that helping people still mattered. Okay. But then school. No arguing. Lila carried a tray to the bedroom like she was handling the crown jewels. Scrambled eggs toast orange juice in a plastic cup. She'd even folded a napkin into a triangle. Ethan watched from the doorway as she set it on the nightstand. "Hi," Lila whispered. "I'm Lila. I brought you eggs." Isabel's eyes opened slowly. For a moment she looked confused, like she couldn't remember where she was or how she got there. Then her gaze landed on Lila, and something shifted in her expression. Warmth. Real warmth, maybe the first genuine emotion Ethan had seen from her. "Thank you, Lila," Isabel said softly. "That's very kind. Are you sick?" "Very sick. My mom was sick too. She died." Lila said it matter-of-factly the way kids do when they've processed grief in their own strange way. She had a thing in her brain that popped. Daddy says it was an aneurysm. She was folding laundry and then she just fell down. The ambulance came, but they couldn't fix her. Isabel's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry." "It's okay. Daddy says we're okay because we have each other. And he says crying helps the sad get out, so you can cry if you need to." A tear rolled down Isabel's cheek, then another. Lila climbed onto the bed. Ethan started to object, but stopped himself and patted Isabel's hand with the same gentle touch she used with wounded birds and stray cats. "It's okay," Lila said again. "You're safe here. Daddy helps people. That's his job." Ethan felt his throat tighten, out of the mouths of babes. "Lila, we need to get you ready for school," he managed. His daughter hopped off the bed, gave Isabel one more smile, and skipped out of the room. Isabel caught his arm as he turned to follow. "Thank you for not turning me in." "Don't thank me yet. I still don't know what I've gotten myself into." "You've gotten into something that could get you killed. That's what you need to know." She held his gaze. "I won't blame you if you change your mind, if you want me gone. Just give me today. Let me get strong enough to leave on my own." "Can you leave on your own?" "Your legs will work or won't work. Either way, I can't stay here and put you and your daughter in danger." Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to point out that she could barely sit up, let alone walk. But he could see the determination in her eyes. She'd crawl out of here if she had to. "One more day," he said. "Then we figure out a real plan." After he dropped Lila at school, Ethan drove back to the warehouse. He needed to see the room again. Needed to understand what he'd stumbled into. The building looked different in daylight, less menacing, more pathetic. Just an old structure waiting to be torn down and replaced with something shiny and new. Rodriguez was asleep in the front office, snoring with his feet up on the desk. Ethan walked to the northwest section, to the room where he'd found Isabel. The door was still open, the broken padlock on the ground where he'd dropped it. Inside the mattress remained, along with empty water bottles, medical supplies, a bucket that he didn't want to think too hard about. Someone had been keeping her alive, barely alive, but alive. Why? Ethan pulled out his phone, started taking pictures. The room, the supplies, everything. He didn't know what he'd do with the evidence, but he needed something. Some proof that this was real, that he wasn't losing his mind. That's when he saw it. A prescription bottle half hidden under the mattress. He picked it up, read the label. Diazepam, 10 mg. Patient Isabel Grant. Prescribing physician Dr. Marcus Hale. The name meant nothing to him, but the patient name made his blood run cold. Isabel Grant. He pulled out his phone, typed the name into Google. The first result made him drop the phone. Billionaire heiress Isabel Grant. Missing for 5 weeks. Father offers $10 million reward. The photo showed a woman in a designer gown at some charity gala, smiling at the camera, with perfect teeth and perfect hair. She looked healthy, happy, completely different from the broken woman in his bed. But the eyes were the same, those intense, intelligent eyes. Ethan scrolled through article after article. Isabel Grant, daughter of tech mogul Richard Grant, heiress to a fortune worth billions. Disappeared 5 weeks ago after leaving her office. No trace, no leads. Police suspected foul play but had no evidence. Her father was offering $10 million for information leading to her whereabouts. $10 million. Ethan's hands were shaking. That money could change his life, could pay for Lila's college, could buy them a real house with a yard, could mean never worrying about rent or food, or whether he could afford to take his daughter to the doctor. All he had to do was make one phone call. But then he thought about Isabel's face last night. The terror in her eyes when she begged him not to call anyone. The way she'd said, "He'll kill me." If someone had done this to Isabel, Grant, someone with enough power to make a billionaire's daughter disappear, then that person wouldn't hesitate to tie up loose ends. And Ethan was now a very loose end. He picked up the prescription bottle, pocketed it, and left the warehouse. He had a lot of questions for Isabel Grant, and he had a feeling he wasn't going to like any of the answers. When Ethan got back to the apartment, Isabel was sitting up on the couch. She'd managed to drag herself there somehow, leaving a trail of displaced blankets across the floor. Her hospital gown had been replaced by one of his old t-shirts and a pair of sweatpants that hung loose on her frame. She looked up when he walked in, and her face went white. "You know," she said, not a question. Ethan pulled the prescription bottle from his pocket, tossed it onto the coffee table between them. It landed with a hollow rattle. Isabel Grant, daughter of Richard Grant, missing for 5 weeks, $10 million reward. He kept his voice level. "Were you ever going to tell me?" "I was going to tell you when I knew I could trust you." "Trust me, lady. I saved your life. I brought you into my home. I'm risking everything. And I appreciate that." Isabel's voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. But trust isn't about gratitude. It's about knowing someone won't sell you out the first chance they get. $10 million is a lot of money for a man who works as a janitor. The words stung because they were true. He had thought about it. For one terrible moment in that warehouse, he'd thought about making the call. "I'm not going to turn you in," Ethan said quietly. "Why not?" "Because whoever put you in that room is still out there. And something tells me if I call your father, if I call the police, if I tell anyone you're alive, you'll end up back in that room. Or worse." Isabel's shoulders sagged with relief. "His name is Marcus Hale, my fiancé, former fiancé." She laughed bitterly. "We were supposed to get married in 3 weeks. June wedding, 1,000 guests, magazine photographers, the whole fairy tale. What happened? I found something I wasn't supposed to find. Financial records, offshore accounts, money being moved out of my father's company, millions of dollars, maybe billions." Isabel's hands twisted in her lap. "I confronted Marcus about it. Thought maybe there was an explanation. Thought maybe he could help me figure out what was going on. But he was the one stealing it. Him and my father's CFO and half the board of directors. They've been embezzling for 3 years, setting up a network to strip the company assets before my father dies." She looked up at Ethan. "My father has pancreatic cancer, stage 4. He has maybe 6 months left. Everyone knows it, including Marcus. So he courted you to get close to the money. He courted me to get control of the money. Once we were married, he'd have access to everything. And once my father died, he'd be positioned to take over the entire company as my husband and advisor." Isabel's voice cracked. "I was so stupid. I thought he loved me." Ethan sat down across from her. "What happened the night you disappeared?" "We were supposed to have dinner. He picked me up from my office, said he wanted to show me something, drove me out to that warehouse." She paused, breathing hard. "I realized something was wrong when we pulled up. There was nothing there. No restaurant. No surprise. Just that empty building. I asked him what we were doing there, and he smiled. That's what I remember most. He smiled like he'd just won something. Did he hit you? Yes, once. Hard enough that I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in that room and I couldn't move my legs. He'd injected something into my spine. Nerve agent, military grade. He told me it would wear off in a few days, but by then I'd be too weak to escape. Isabel wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. He explained everything. How he'd planned it all. How he was going to let me die slowly while he played the grieving fiancé. How my father would die thinking I'd abandoned him. Jesus Christ. He visited me 3 times, brought water, enough to keep me alive but not enough to give me strength. He wanted to make sure the process was slow, painful. He wanted me to suffer. Her voice went flat, emotionless. The last time he came, he told me he'd moved up the timeline, that he was going to stop visiting, that I had maybe a week left before dehydration killed me. That was a week ago. That was a week ago. I thought I was going to die. I'd made peace with it. And then you showed up. They sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, traffic hummed. Someone was playing music in the apartment below. Normal sounds. Normal life. Everything Ethan was about to lose. The prescription bottle, Isabel said. Where did you find it? Under the mattress. Your name on it. His name as the prescribing physician. He's not a physician. He's a pharmaceutical executive. But he has access to everything. Medications, medical equipment, doctors who owe him favors. She leaned forward. That bottle is evidence. If we can connect him to that room to keeping me there, we'd still have to prove he put you there. And you said it yourself. He has lawyers. He has money. He'd claim you faked your own disappearance, that you have mental health issues. Which he's already been telling people. I found out later. While I was in that room, he was giving interviews about how worried he was, how I'd been acting strange, how I'd threatened to hurt myself. Isabel's laugh was hollow. He's been building the narrative for weeks. If I surface now, I'm the crazy ex-fiancé with a grudge. He's the victim of a false accusation. So, what's your plan? Hide forever. My plan is to get evidence, real evidence. Something he can't explain away. She looked at Ethan with those intense eyes. His computer, his phone, his home office. There has to be something. Financial records, communications with the people helping him, something that proves what he did. You want me to break into his house. I want us to find a way to bring him down. I don't care how. Ethan stood paced to the window. The street below was full of people going about their lives. People with normal problems, bills, jobs, relationships. None of them were hiding a missing billionaire in their apartment. None of them were contemplating breaking into a murderer's house. This is insane, he said. I know. If we get caught, we go to prison, or worse, Marcus finds out I'm alive and finishes what he started. Isabel pulled herself straighter on the couch, wincing with the effort. I'm not asking you to risk your life for me. I'm not asking you to be a hero. I'm asking you to help me get evidence so I can go to the police with something they can't ignore. And if there is no evidence, if he's covered his tracks perfectly, then I disappear for real this time. Leave the country, change my name, let everyone think I'm dead. She met his eyes. But I won't do that without trying. I won't let him win. There was steel in her voice now. The same steel that had probably built her family's empire. The same steel that had kept her alive in that warehouse for 5 weeks. Ethan recognized it because he'd heard it in his own voice the day his wife died. When the doctor said there was nothing they could do, when they suggested he say goodbye, when they told him to let her go. He'd refused, fought, made them try everything until there was truly nothing left to try. It hadn't saved her, but it had meant something that he'd fought. All right, he said. Tell me everything you know about Marcus Hale, where he lives, his routines, his security, everything. Isabel's eyes widened. You'll help me. I'll help you get evidence, that's all. We get proof, we go to the police, and you handle the rest. Deal? Deal. She held out her hand. Ethan shook it, feeling like he was signing a contract with the devil. But maybe the devil was the only one who could fight monsters. Over the next 3 hours, Isabel told him everything. Marcus lived in a penthouse in the Gold Coast. State-of-the-art security. Doorman, cameras, the works. He kept regular hours left for the office at 7 every morning, came home around 8 at night. Worked out at an exclusive gym on Michigan Avenue. Had dinner with business associates at least 3 times a week. He's methodical, Isabel said. Everything in his life is planned, scheduled. He doesn't do spontaneous. Which means breaking into his place during the day is suicide. But his office might be easier. My father's building. I know the security protocols. I know which cameras cover which angles. You can't go there. Someone will recognize you. Not if I'm in a wheelchair. Not if I'm wearing sunglasses and a wig. Not if you're pushing me through the lobby like I'm just another patient visiting the medical research division. Ethan stared at her. You're serious? My father's company does medical research. They have patients in and out of that building every day for clinical trials. We'd blend right in. Isabel's mind was working fast now, planning, strategizing. Marcus's office is on the 42nd floor, executive level. His secretary leaves for lunch at noon. We'd have a 30-minute window. To do what his computer will be password protected, his files locked. We can't just walk in and start snooping. I know his passwords, all of them. He used the same base code for everything and just changed the numbers. She smiled grimly. He thought he was being careful, but I watched him type them enough times. This is insane. You've said that already. Because it keeps being true. Ethan ran his hands through his hair. We're talking about breaking into a corporate office in broad daylight. If we get caught, we won't get caught. Not if we're smart about it. And your legs. You can barely sit up. How are you going to? I'll manage. I'll do whatever it takes. Isabel's jaw was set. My father is dying. Marcus is stealing everything he built. I'm not going to sit here and let it happen. Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to find a safer way, but he could see in her eyes that she'd do this with or without him. And if she tried it alone, she'd fail. Or worse. We need supplies, he said finally. A wheelchair, a wig, fake ID, and we need to move fast. The longer you're here, the more danger we're in. Tomorrow, Isabel said. We do it tomorrow. That's not enough time to plan. Tomorrow, Marcus has a board meeting that runs from 9 to 2. His secretary mentioned it last month, said it was going to be a long one. It's our best window. Ethan closed his eyes. This was happening. Really happening. I need to pick up Lila from school, he said. We'll talk more tonight. Figure out details. But Isabel, he looked at her hard. If this goes wrong, if we get caught, you tell them I kidnapped you. You tell them I found you and held you hostage. You understand? I won't do that. You will, because Lila needs a parent. She's already lost her mother. She's not losing me too. His voice was firm. That's the condition. We do this my way or not at all. Isabel nodded slowly. Okay, your way. Ethan grabbed his keys, headed for the door. Halfway there, he stopped. Why me? He asked. Out of everyone in this city, why did you trust me? Isabel was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because when you found me in that room, you didn't look at me like I was a prize or a problem. You looked at me like I was a person, like I mattered. She smiled sadly. That's rarer than you think, especially in my world. Ethan left without responding. He didn't trust himself to speak. The drive to Lila's school was automatic muscle memory taking over while his brain spun in circles. He was really going to do this. Break into Grant Technologies. Help a missing billionaire steal evidence from her would-be killer. Risk everything. For what a woman he'd known for 2 days, a sense of justice, or just because saying no felt like giving up on something important. Maybe all three. Lila came running out of school with her backpack bouncing, face bright with excitement. For a moment, watching her, Ethan almost turned around. Almost decided to pack up Isabel Grant, drive her to the nearest police station, and let someone else handle this nightmare. But then Lila climbed into the car and said, "How's the princess? Is she feeling better?" "A little better." "Good. I drew her a picture in art class. It's a rainbow. Mrs. Chen says rainbows mean hope." She held up the drawing crayon colors, bright and messy and perfect. Ethan looked at his daughter, at her gap-toothed smile and trusting eyes, and thought about what the world would teach her. That helping people was dangerous. That turning away was safer. That kindness was a luxury you couldn't afford when survival was on the line. He didn't want her to learn those lessons. Not yet. Maybe not ever. "I think she'll love it, baby." That night after Lila went to bed, Ethan and Isabel planned. He'd found a wheelchair at a medical supply store, charged it to the credit card he never used. Bought a wig from a costume shop. Printed a fake visitor badge using templates he found online. It was amateur hour stuff. Laughably inadequate. But it was all they had. "The security in the lobby is electronic badge readers," Isabel explained, drawing a rough layout on a piece of paper. "But visitors can check in at the desk. They'll give you a temporary pass." "Won't they ask questions?" "Write down names. Give them a fake name. Say you're here for a clinical trial meeting on the 14th floor. They won't verify. They process hundreds of visitors a day. And getting to the 42nd floor. That's the tricky part. Executive floors require a key card in the elevator, but the stairwell doors can be accessed from the 14th floor if you know the right code. Fire safety regulation. My father insisted on it after 9/11. You remember the code 4372. I watched him punch it in 100 times. Ethan studied the layout. The plan was full of holes dependent on luck and timing, and nothing going wrong, which meant everything would go wrong. What if Marcus is there? What if he comes back early from the meeting? Then we abort. We leave. We try another way. Isabel looked at him steadily. "I'm not going to let anything happen to you, Ethan. You have my word. Your word doesn't mean much if we're both dead. Then we'd better not die." She said it lightly, but her hands were shaking. She was terrified. Just as terrified as he was. But she was going to do it anyway. Ethan thought about his wife. About the last thing she'd said to him before the aneurysm took her ability to speak. "Take care of our girl. Promise me." He'd promised. And he'd kept that promise for 3 years. Worked 2 jobs. Went without sleep. Did whatever it took to keep Lila safe and fed and loved. Now he was about to risk it all for a stranger. Except Isabel didn't feel like a stranger anymore. She felt like someone who'd been dropped into his life for a reason. Someone he was meant to help. Even if it killed him. "Get some sleep," he said. "Tomorrow's going to be a long day." "Ethan?" Isabel's voice stopped him at the bedroom door. "Thank you. For believing me. For helping me. I know you don't have any reason to trust me. I don't. But my gut says you're telling the truth, and my gut's usually right. Usually. Well, I married a woman who put ketchup on scrambled eggs, so it's not perfect." Isabel laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was startling in the quiet apartment. Probably the first time she'd laughed in weeks. "Your wife sounds like she had good taste." "The absolute worst. But I loved her anyway." Ethan smiled. "Get some rest, Isabel. We've got a crime to commit in the morning." He closed the door, headed back to the couch. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it going wrong. Marcus discovering them, police arriving, Lila losing her father. But he also saw something else. Isabel walking into a courtroom, head high, facing the man who'd tried to destroy her. Winning. Surviving. That image kept him going through the sleepless night. Morning came too fast. Ethan got Lila ready for school, kept his voice cheerful and normal, even though his insides were churning. Dropped her off with a longer hug than usual. "You okay, Daddy?" she asked. "Fine, baby. Just love you, that's all." "Love you too. Tell the princess I hope she feels better." When he got back to the apartment, Isabel was already dressed. The wig transformed her dark hair, replaced with a short blonde cut. Sunglasses covered half her face. She looked nothing like the photos online. "Ready?" she asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." Getting her into the wheelchair was harder than expected. Her legs were deadweight unresponsive. He had to lift her like a child, settle her carefully into the seat. She winced, but didn't complain. The drive to Grant Technologies took 20 minutes through downtown traffic. The building was glass and steel, 60 stories of corporate power reaching toward the sky. People in expensive suits flowed in and out of the revolving doors like blood through a heart. Ethan pulled into the parking garage, killed the engine. His hands were shaking. "Last chance to back out," Isabel said quietly. "I was about to say the same thing to you." "Not a chance." "Then let's go rob your fiancé." He got the wheelchair out, helped her into it. She arranged a blanket over her lap, put on her sunglasses, transformed into just another patient, anonymous and invisible. They went through the lobby doors. The space was massive, all marble and glass, and echoing footsteps. Security desk to the right, elevators to the left, cameras everywhere. Ethan pushed the wheelchair toward the security desk, trying to look bored and routine. Just another caretaker bringing another patient to another appointment. The guard barely looked up. "Purpose of visit. Clinical trial. 14th floor." Ethan's voice came out steady, surprising him. "Names?" "John Matthews. Patient is Mary Matthews." The guard typed into his computer, printed 2 visitor badges, handed them over without making eye contact. "Elevators on the left. Have a good day." Just like that, they were in. Ethan pushed Isabel toward the elevators, heart hammering. The badges dangled from lanyards around their necks. Official. Legitimate. They rode up to the 14th floor in silence. When the doors opened, Isabel pointed left. Stairwell. End of the hall. The corridor was empty. Medical offices lined both sides, all closed doors and frosted glass. Ethan pushed the wheelchair faster than necessary, trying not to look suspicious. Definitely looking suspicious. The stairwell door had a keypad. He punched in 4372. Nothing happened. "Try again," Isabel whispered. "Slower." He did. The lock clicked. The door swung open. They were in. The stairwell was concrete and metal utilitarian. No cameras. Emergency exit only. Ethan lifted Isabel from the wheelchair, carried her up flight after flight. By the 20th floor, his arms were burning. By the 30th, he could barely breathe. "Almost there," Isabel murmured against his shoulder. "You're doing great." 42nd floor, executive level. Ethan pushed open the door, peered into the hallway. Empty. Plush carpet, art on the walls, corner offices with floor-to-ceiling windows. "Third door on the right," Isabel said. "Marcus Hale, Vice President of Strategic Development." The nameplate confirmed it. Ethan tried the handle. Locked. Now what? Isabel pulled a key from her pocket. "I never gave this back. Didn't think I'd need it again." She handed it to him. Ironic, isn't it? The key turned smoothly. The door opened into an office that screamed money. Leather furniture, mahogany desk, view of Lake Michigan stretching to the horizon, and on the desk, a computer. Ethan set Isabel down in the executive chair. She immediately started typing, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Password," he asked. "Grant 2024. He uses my last name. Twisted right." Her face was intense with concentration. "I'm in, looking for financial records, offshore accounts, anything that connects him to the embezzlement." Ethan stood by the door, watching the hallway through the narrow window. Every footstep made him jump. Every voice made his heart stop. "How long?" he whispered. 5 minutes, maybe 10. There's a lot of files." 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. Ethan counted heartbeats, counted breaths, counted all the ways this could go catastrophically wrong. "Got something," Isabel said. Bank records, Cayman Islands, transfers totaling $800 million over 3 years. She was downloading files onto a USB drive. Emails between Marcus and the CFO. They're talking about accelerating the timeline after my father's diagnosis. Jesus, they knew he was dying, and they... The elevator dinged. Ethan's blood turned to ice. Footsteps in the hallway. Multiple people. Coming closer. "Isabel," he hissed. "Almost done. Just need... now. We need to leave now." Voices outside. Getting louder. One of them was male, smooth, confident. One of them was Marcus. Isabel's hands froze on the keyboard. Her face went dead white. "The USB," Ethan said. "Grab it. We're going." She yanked the drive out, shoved it in her pocket. Ethan scooped her up, headed for the door, then stopped. They'd come through that door. Marcus would see them the second they stepped into the hall. "Window!" Isabel gasped. "Fire escape!" There was no fire escape. They were 42 stories up. But Ethan ran to the window anyway, looked down. There was a maintenance ledge about 3 feet below, running the length of the building. Narrow. Terrifying. But possible. The voices were right outside the door now. "I'm telling you, the quarterly reports are solid. We're on track for..." The door handle turned. Ethan threw open the window, climbed onto the ledge, pulled Isabel through after him. The wind hit them like a fist. Lake Michigan stretched below, impossibly far down. He pressed against the glass, holding Isabel against his chest. Both of them frozen. Through the window, they watched Marcus enter his office. He was on his phone laughing at something. He walked to his desk, sat down in the chair Isabel had just vacated. His hand went to his mouse. The screen was still on, still showing the files she'd been accessing. Marcus stopped laughing. His expression changed, went cold and sharp and dangerous. He stood up slowly, looked around the office. His eyes swept right past the window, past the ledge where they were standing, separated from him by nothing but a pane of glass and a 42-story drop. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Ethan couldn't hear what he was saying, but he watched Marcus's mouth form words, watched his free hand clench into a fist. Whatever he was saying, it wasn't good. They needed to move, needed to get off this ledge before someone looked out another window and saw them. But moving meant making noise, meant risking Marcus hearing them. Isabel's fingers dug into Ethan's shirt. She was shaking, not from fear, from rage. Through the glass, Marcus sat back down at his computer, typing rapidly, probably checking what had been accessed, what had been copied. He'd know someone was onto him. He'd know someone had his files. But he wouldn't know who. Not yet. Ethan started moving along the ledge, slow and careful, keeping Isabel pressed against the building. 1 foot, then another. Don't look down. Don't think about falling. 5 feet. 10. 20. They reached the next window. An empty conference room. Ethan tried the latch. Locked. Further down the ledge. Ethan's arms were screaming. Isabel was dead weight, completely dependent on his grip. Another window. Another locked room. Behind them, Marcus stood up again, walked to his window, looked out at the city. Ethan froze. If Marcus turned his head even slightly, if he looked along the building instead of down at the street, Marcus's phone rang. He answered it, turned away from the window, walked back to his desk. Ethan kept moving. Finally, at the far end of the building, they found an unlocked window. A bathroom. Ethan half fell through it, landing hard on the tile floor, with Isabel on top of him. They lay there for a moment, both breathing hard, both alive. "That was stupid," Isabel gasped. "That was your plan." "I didn't say it was a good plan." Despite everything, Ethan laughed. Quiet, desperate laughter that bordered on hysteria. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. They had the evidence. They had the proof. Now they just had to survive long enough to use it. Getting out of the building was easier than getting in, mostly because Ethan stopped caring about looking normal. He carried Isabel through the bathroom door, found a service elevator at the end of the hall, and rode down to the parking garage without seeing another soul. His arms felt like they might fall off. His heart was beating so hard he thought it might explode. They made it to the truck. Ethan set Isabel in the passenger seat, slammed the door, got behind the wheel. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely get the key in the ignition. "Drive," Isabel said. "Just drive." He drove. Out of the garage, into traffic, away from Grant Technologies and Marcus Hale and the 42nd floor where they'd just committed corporate espionage. Neither of them spoke for 10 blocks. 15. 20. Finally, Ethan pulled into a McDonald's parking lot and killed the engine. "We need to go to the police," he said. "Right now, with that USB drive. We have evidence. We have proof. We end this." "We can't." "Like hell we can't. Isabel, he knows someone was in his office. He's going to check the security footage. He's going to see us in the lobby. We're out of time." The lobby footage shows John and Mary Matthews. Fake names. My face was covered, and we never took the elevator to his floor. Isabel pulled the USB drive from her pocket, held it up. "This is everything. Bank records, emails, proof of embezzlement. But if we go to the police now, Marcus will destroy everything else. He'll wipe servers. He'll disappear witnesses. He has the resources to make all of this go away." "Then what's your plan? Wait until he finds us. Wait until he figures out it was you." "My plan is to make copies, multiple copies, send them to journalists, federal prosecutors, the SEC. Make it so public that he can't bury it." Isabel's voice was steady now, focused. "And then I go to my father. I tell him everything. I let him see what Marcus has done, what he tried to do to me. Your father thinks you're dead. Then I come back from the dead." Ethan laughed without humor. "You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's terrifying. But it's the only way to make sure Marcus doesn't win." She looked at him. "I need one more day, 24 hours to make copies, to reach out to the right people, to set everything in motion. Then I'll walk into my father's office and blow Marcus's world apart. Can you give me one more day?" Everything in Ethan's body screamed no. Screamed to end this nightmare now before it got worse. But he looked at Isabel's face and saw the same determination he'd seen when he found her in that warehouse. The same steel that had kept her alive for 5 weeks. "One day," he said, "but we're not going back to my apartment. Marcus might not know who we are yet, but he will. And when he does, that's the first place he'll look." "Where do we go?" Ethan thought for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call he never thought he'd make. His brother answered on the 3rd ring. "Ethan. That you?" "Yeah, Tony. It's me. I need a favor." They hadn't spoken in 2 years. Not since their mother's funeral, when Tony had gotten drunk and said some things about Ethan's life choices that couldn't be taken back. But blood was blood, and Tony had a house in Naperville with a basement apartment he rented out, currently vacant. "What kind of favor?" Tony's voice was wary. "I need a place to stay, just for a day or two. Me and a friend." "What kind of friend?" "The kind who's in trouble. The kind who needs help." Silence. Then Tony said, "You in some kind of mess, little brother?" "Maybe, probably. Yeah." More silence. Ethan could hear kids screaming in the background. Tony's kids. 3 of them. Normal life. Normal problems. "Address is the same. Keys under the 3rd flower pot on the back porch. Don't make me regret this." "I won't. Thanks, Tony." "And Ethan, whatever you're into, be careful. Lila needs her dad." The line went dead. Ethan looked at Isabel. "We have a place. An hour west. We hole up there, make your copies, and figure out how to end this without getting killed. Your brother, my brother, who I haven't talked to in 2 years, who probably thinks I'm an idiot for helping you. Is he right? Absolutely, but I'm helping you anyway." They stopped at a FedEx office on the way out of the city. Ethan went in alone, made a dozen copies of the USB drive, paid in cash. The clerk didn't ask questions. Probably saw Stranger Things every day in Chicago. When he got back to the truck, Isabel had her phone out. Not her regular phone. A burner they'd picked up at a gas station. "Who are you calling?" Ethan asked. "A reporter. Sarah Chen. She covered my disappearance. Wrote articles about my father about the company. If anyone will take this seriously, it's her." Isabel dialed, waited. "Sarah Chen's office, please." She got transferred. Put on hold. Ethan drove while she waited, heading west on I-88, leaving Chicago behind. "Ms. Chen, my name is No. Don't hang up. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm Isabel Grant, the real Isabel Grant, and I have information about my disappearance that you need to hear." Ethan couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but he could imagine it. The reporter's skepticism, her questions, her disbelief. "I can prove who I am. I'll send you files, financial records, evidence of embezzlement at Grant Technologies, evidence that my fiancé Marcus Hale tried to murder me." Isabel's voice was strong, confident. "I'm sending you a USB drive via overnight mail. You'll have it tomorrow morning. When you see what's on it, you'll understand. And when you're ready to break the biggest story of your career, you'll call the number I'm texting you." She hung up, sent a text, then made another call, and another. Federal prosecutor, FBI White-Collar Crime Division, SEC Enforcement. Each conversation was the same. Skepticism, disbelief. Isabel pushing through with facts and evidence, and the kind of authority that came from being born into money. By the time they reached Tony's house, she'd made 8 calls and sent out 10 USB drives to different addresses. Journalists, law enforcement, even her father's company attorney, someone she said she trusted. "Insurance," she explained. "If something happens to me, if Marcus finds me, the truth still gets out. Nothing's going to happen to you." "You don't know that." "I'm not letting it happen. That's what I know." Tony's house was a suburban split level with a manicured lawn and a basketball hoop in the driveway. The basement apartment had its own entrance around back. Ethan found the key under the 3rd flower pot exactly where Tony said. Inside was basic furniture, a kitchenette, a bathroom. Clean, but impersonal. Perfect. Ethan set Isabel on the couch, then collapsed beside her. His entire body ached. His mind was racing. They'd done it. They'd gotten the evidence. They'd set things in motion. Now they just had to survive until those dominoes fell. "I need to pick up Lila," Ethan said, checking his watch. 3:15. School ended at 3:30. "I can't leave her there. Can't let her go home to an empty apartment, not today." "Bring her here." "Are you sure if Marcus tracks us down?" "Then I want her where we can protect her. Not alone somewhere." Isabel met his eyes. "Besides, I think I'd like to see her. She's the only normal thing in this whole nightmare." Ethan drove back into the city every mile feeling dangerous. He kept checking his mirrors, watching for cars that followed too long, looking for danger everywhere. But the drive was uneventful. Traffic and stoplights and normal Tuesday afternoon chaos. He pulled up outside Lila's school just as kids were streaming out. She saw the truck came running with her backpack bouncing and her gap-toothed smile bright. "Daddy, you're early." "Thought we'd do something different today. How about an adventure?" "What kind of adventure?" "The kind where we stay at Uncle Tony's for the night. You remember Uncle Tony?" Lila's face lit up. "The one with the big TV and the pool table? That's the one? Is the princess coming too?" Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, baby. She's coming too." "Good." I made her another picture. Lila climbed into the truck, pulling out a drawing from her backpack. More rainbows. More bright colors. More hope. The drive back to Naperville took longer in afternoon traffic. Lila chattered the whole way about her day, about math class and lunch, and the boy who ate glue. Normal kid stuff. Normal kid problems. Ethan let the sound of her voice wash over him, grounding him. This was why he was doing this, Not for justice or revenge or anything noble. Just to protect this moment, this innocence, this kid who still believed the world was good. When they got to Tony's basement apartment, Lila ran straight to Isabel. "Princess, I brought you another rainbow." She held up the drawing proudly. "Mrs. Chen says every rainbow is a promise that things get better." Isabel took the drawing with shaking hands. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "It's beautiful, Lila. Thank you." "Why are you crying? Are you sad?" "No, sweetheart. I'm happy. Sometimes people cry when they're happy too." Lila considered this. Then she climbed onto the couch next to Isabel and leaned against her shoulder. "It's okay. Daddy cries sometimes too. He thinks I don't see, but I do. He cries in the shower and in the car, and sometimes when he's tucking me in. But he always feels better after." Ethan felt his throat close up. Kid saw everything, remembered everything. "Your dad is a good man," Isabel said softly. "The best man. That's what Mommy used to say. She said Daddy was the best man in the whole world and I was lucky to have him." Lila looked up at Isabel with those big dark eyes. "Do you have a daddy?" "I do. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I'm going to see him soon." "Is he nice?" "He's the best man in the whole world, just like yours." Ethan turned away, busied himself with unpacking the few things they'd brought. He couldn't watch this. Couldn't watch his daughter bond with a woman who might disappear tomorrow, who might die tomorrow, who might take them all down with her. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Ethan Cole." The voice was male, professional, cold. "Who's asking?" "My name is Marcus Hale. I believe you have something that belongs to me." Ethan's blood turned to ice. He walked into the bedroom, closed the door. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't insult my intelligence. I know you were in my office. I know you took files from my computer. And I know you're protecting someone who should be dead." Marcus's voice was calm. Too calm. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to return what you stole. You're going to tell me where Isabel Grant is. And you're going to forget any of this ever happened. And if I don't, then I make some calls to Child Protective Services, to the police. I tell them about the man who kidnapped a vulnerable missing woman, who's holding her against her will, who has a history of mental instability after his wife's death." Marcus paused. "I tell them about his daughter, 9 years old. Lila Wright, cute kid. Be a shame if she ended up in foster care while her father sits in jail." Ethan's hand clenched around the phone so hard his knuckles went white. "You touch my daughter. I won't have to touch her. The system will do it for me, unless you cooperate." Marcus's voice got quieter, more dangerous. "You're a janitor, Mr. Cole, a nobody. Do you really think anyone will believe your story over mine? Do you think you can protect Isabel from me? I have lawyers, resources, friends in every agency that matters. I have evidence. I have proof of what you did. Evidence that you stole illegally. Evidence that will never see the inside of a courtroom. Evidence that makes you look like a criminal, not a hero." Marcus laughed softly. "You're out of your depth. You made a mistake getting involved, but it's not too late to fix it. Give me Isabel. Walk away. Save yourself and your daughter. Go to hell. I'll give you until midnight. After that, I make my calls. After that, you lose everything." The line went dead. Ethan stood in the bedroom shaking with rage and fear. Marcus knew about Lila, knew her name, knew her age, had probably been watching them for days. They weren't safe. They'd never been safe. He walked back into the living room. Isabel took one look at his face and knew. He called. He knows. About you. About me. About Lila. He's threatening to take her away, to put me in jail, to bury us both. Ethan's voice was hollow. He gave me until midnight to hand you over. Lila looked up from her drawing. Daddy, what's wrong? Nothing, baby. Everything's fine. But Lila was 9, not stupid. She looked between Ethan and Isabel, reading the room the way kids do. You're scared, she said. A little bit, yeah. Is someone trying to hurt the princess? Ethan knelt down in front of his daughter. Lila, I need you to listen to me very carefully. The person who hurt Isabel is looking for her. He's a bad man. A very bad man. And he might try to hurt us too. But I'm not going to let that happen. Do you understand? Are we in danger? Maybe. I don't know yet. Lila processed this. Then she said, in my storybook, when the princess is in danger, the knight protects her. Are you the knight, Daddy? I guess I am. Then you'll win. Knights always win. If only life were that simple. Isabel spoke up. Ethan, I'll go. I'll call Marcus. I'll meet him. I'll end this. Absolutely not. He's right about one thing. You're out of your depth. This isn't your fight. You have a daughter to protect. I won't let you lose her because of me. And I won't let you walk into a trap. Marcus will kill you. You know that. Maybe. But at least you and Lila will be safe. No. Ethan's voice was firm. We stick to the plan. We go public tomorrow. We get your story out. We make it so big that Marcus can't bury it. Can't bury you. And what happens tonight? What happens when midnight comes and Marcus makes his calls? Then we deal with it, together. Isabel shook her head. You don't understand what he's capable of. The resources he has. The people he controls. He owns judges, police officers, social workers. He'll make good on his threats. Let him try. I'm not giving you up. End of discussion. They stared at each other. Two stubborn people who'd both lost too much to back down now. Finally, Isabel said, Then we need to move faster. We can't wait until tomorrow. We need to go public tonight. How? Live television, a press conference, something he can't stop or control. Isabel pulled out her burner phone again. Sarah Chen, the reporter. She works for Channel 7. If I offer her an exclusive, if I promise to tell my story live, she'll run it. She has to. They'll want to verify it's really you. I'll verify it. I'll answer questions only I would know. I'll provide documentation. I'll make it impossible to deny. Isabel was already dialing. Marcus gave you until midnight. That gives us 7 hours. We can do this. Sarah Chen answered on the second ring. This is Sarah. Ms. Chen, it's Isabel Grant again. I'm ready to go public. Tonight. Live interview. I'll prove who I am. I'll tell you everything. But it has to be tonight. Are you interested? Whatever Sarah Chen said made Isabel smile. 9 p.m., your studio. I'll be there. She hung up, looked at Ethan. It's happening. We're doing this. Just like that. Just like that. No more hiding, no more running. Tonight the whole city learns what Marcus Hale did, and tomorrow he pays for it. Ethan wanted to feel relief. Wanted to feel like they were finally taking control. But all he felt was dread. Because going public meant stepping into a spotlight. Meant making themselves targets. Meant gambling everything on the hope that the truth mattered. The next few hours were chaos. Sarah Chen called back with details. Security protocols. Questions they'd ask. Verification they'd need. She wanted medical records, personal information. Proof that this wasn't a hoax. Isabel provided everything. Names of her childhood pets. Her mother's maiden name. Details about her father's company that only family would know. And she promised to provide the USB drive with all the evidence against Marcus. This is the biggest story of the year, Sarah said over the phone. Maybe the decade. We're clearing our prime time slot, 9 p.m., live, unedited. You'll tell your story, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. One condition, Isabel said. The man who saved me, Ethan Cole. He stays anonymous. No names, no pictures. You protect him and his daughter. Agreed. See you at 9. At 7:30, Ethan called Tony. "I need you to pick up Lila. Take her to your house. Keep her safe tonight." "What's going on, Ethan?" "I can't explain right now, but please, Tony. I need you to do this for me." "You're scaring me, little brother." "Good. Be scared. Be careful. And whatever happens, whatever you hear on the news tonight, keep Lila safe. Don't let anyone take her. Not social services, not police, not anyone. Can you do that? Jesus Christ, Ethan, what have you gotten into?" "Promise me, Tony." "I promise. I'll protect her. But you better not get yourself killed." "I'll do my best." Tony arrived 20 minutes later. He looked at Ethan and Isabel at the whole situation and shook his head. "You're an idiot." "Probably. But you're my idiot. Stay alive, okay?" "That's the plan." Lila hugged Ethan tight. "Be careful, Daddy. Be a good night." "I will, baby. I love you." "Love you too. And tell the princess good luck." After they left, Ethan and Isabel sat in silence for a moment. "Last chance to back out," Isabel said. "Not a chance." "You're insane. You know that—" "Lady, I've been insane since the moment I broke that padlock." At 8:15, they drove to the Channel 7 studios. Downtown Chicago. Glass building with the station logo lit up against the night sky. Security at the door. Cameras everywhere. Sarah Chen met them in the lobby. She was younger than Ethan expected. Mid-30s. Sharp suit. Sharper eyes. She looked at Isabel like she was examining a puzzle. Isabel Grant. In the flesh. Or someone who looks a lot like her. "It's me." "We'll see. I have a list of questions. If you answer them correctly, we go live. If not, we call the police and you explain why you're impersonating a missing woman. Ask your questions." They went into a private room. Ethan stayed outside pacing, watching the clock. 8:20, 8:30, 8:45. At 8:50, Sarah Chen came out. Her face was pale. "It's her. It's really her. My God, the story she's telling." "Can you protect her?" Ethan asked. "We're going live in 10 minutes. Once this airs, the whole world will know. He can't touch her after that." "You don't know Marcus Hale." "No, but after tonight everyone will." Sarah looked at him. "You're the one who found her, the janitor. I don't want to be part of this story." "You already are, but I'll keep your name out of it. You have my word." She checked her watch. 5 minutes. You should watch from the control room." Ethan followed her down a hallway, into a room full of screens and equipment. On the main screen, he could see the studio. Isabel sitting in a chair under bright lights. She looked small, fragile, but her back was straight, her chin was up. Sarah Chen took the seat across from her. Technicians counted down. 3, 2, 1. "Good evening. I'm Sarah Chen, and tonight we have a story that will shock this city. Isabel Grant, the missing heiress who was declared dead 5 weeks ago, is alive, and she's here to tell us what really happened." Sarah turned to Isabel. "Ms. Grant, thank you for being here. Thank you for believing me. Let's start with the most important question. Where have you been for the past 5 weeks?" Isabel took a breath. Then she told her story. All of it. Marcus, the engagement, the embezzlement she discovered, the night he drove her to the warehouse, the injection that paralyzed her, the 5 weeks of dying slowly in that locked room. She told them about Ethan finding her, about the evidence she'd gathered, about the USB drive that proved everything. She named names. Richard Grant's CFO, board members, everyone involved in the scheme. And she looked straight into the camera and said, "Marcus Hale tried to murder me. He tried to steal my father's company, and he almost got away with it. But I'm here now. I'm alive, and I'm not afraid of him anymore." The interview lasted 40 minutes. By the end, Sarah Chen was in tears. So was half the control room. When the cameras turned off, Isabel collapsed back in her chair. "It's done," she whispered. "It's finally done." But Ethan was watching the monitors, watching social media feeds lighting up, watching the story spread like wildfire across the internet. And on one of the screens he saw it. Breaking news banner on another channel. Marcus Hale had just held his own press conference. He was claiming Isabel was mentally unstable, that she'd faked her own kidnapping, that the evidence was fabricated, that he was the real victim. The battle wasn't over. It was just beginning. Ethan's phone exploded with notifications before they even left the building. News alerts, social media mentions, text messages from numbers he didn't recognize. The story was everywhere, spreading faster than any of them had anticipated. Sarah Chen was fielding calls in the hallway, her voice rising with each conversation. Yes, we verified her identity. Yes, we have documentation. No, this is not a hoax. Isabel sat in the makeup chair where they'd prepared her for the interview, staring at her reflection, like she didn't recognize herself. He's already spinning it. Already controlling the narrative. Let him spin, Ethan said. You told the truth. You have evidence. That matters. Does it? In a world where money buys reality. She turned to look at him. Marcus has spent 2 years building credibility, building relationships. People trust him. People like him. I'm just the unstable heiress with a history of anxiety. You don't have a history of anxiety. I do now. He'll have doctors lined up by morning, psychiatrists who'll testify I've been delusional for years, medical records that somehow appeared out of nowhere. Isabel's voice was bitter. You don't understand how this works. Truth doesn't matter when the other side has infinite resources. Sarah Chen came back into the room, her face flushed with adrenaline. The FBI just called. They want to meet with you tonight. They're taking this seriously. Or they want to control the story before it gets bigger, Isabel said. Either way, they want to talk. I told them midnight at the Federal Building. That gives us 2 hours to prepare. Sarah looked at Ethan. You should be there too. You're a witness. You found her. You saw the warehouse. I'm nobody. A janitor who stuck his nose where it didn't belong. You're the person who saved her life. That makes you important. Sarah's phone rang again. She glanced at it, her expression changing. It's your father, Isabel. Richard Grant. He's calling the station. Isabel's face went white. Put him on speaker. Sarah hit the button. An old man's voice filled the room, rough with emotion and sickness. Is my daughter really alive? Tell me the truth. I need to hear it from her. Daddy. Isabel's voice broke on the word. Daddy, it's me. I'm here. I'm alive. Silence. Then a sound that might have been a sob. Isabel. My God. My Isabel. Where are you? What happened? The news is saying. Everything I said on television is true. Marcus tried to kill me. He's been stealing from the company. I'm sending security right now. Tell me where you are and I'll have a team there in 10 minutes. No, I can't. Not yet. Marcus has people everywhere. I don't know who to trust. You can trust me. You can always trust me, sweetheart. Richard's voice was desperate. Please, I thought you were dead. I've been dying inside for 5 weeks thinking I'd lost you. Don't make me wait another minute. Isabel looked at Ethan. He could see the war in her eyes, the need to see her father, the fear that it was a trap. The Federal Building, she said finally. Midnight. Meet me there. Bring whoever you need to feel safe. But Daddy, if Marcus is with you... Marcus is not with me. Marcus will never be near me again. Richard's voice turned hard. I trusted that man. I thought he loved you. If what you're saying is true, if he did this to you, I'll destroy him. I'll use every resource I have to make sure he pays. It's true, all of it, and I can prove it. Then we'll face him together, like we should have from the start. Richard coughed a wet sound that made Isabel flinch. I'll see you at midnight, sweetheart. Don't be late. I don't have time to waste anymore. The line went dead. Isabel sat there, tears streaming down her face. He believed me. He actually believed me. Of course he believed you. You're his daughter. You don't understand. My father he's practical, logical. He built an empire by not trusting anyone, but he believed me without question, without hesitation. She wiped her eyes. Maybe I underestimated him. Sarah was already coordinating logistics. Security at the federal building, FBI presence, media blackout until after the meeting. She worked her phone like a conductor leading an orchestra. Ethan's phone rang. Tony, you want to explain to me why my daughter just saw her father on national television? Why she's crying and asking if you're going to jail? Why there are news vans driving past my house? They found you already. 3 of them, camped out on the street. Ethan, what the hell is going on? Keep Lila inside. Don't answer the door. Don't talk to anyone. I'll handle this. You'll handle this. You're all over the news. They're calling you a hero, a vigilante, a criminal. Nobody knows what you are. Neither do I anymore, Ethan admitted. But Tony, I need you to keep her safe, just until this is over. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. But Ethan, whatever happens tonight, you make sure you come back to her. She's already lost 1 parent. She can't lose 2. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're about to throw your life away for a woman you barely know. Maybe I am, but it's the right thing to do. The right thing doesn't always keep you alive, little brother. Tony hung up. Ethan looked at Isabel. She was watching him with an expression he couldn't read. Your brother's right, she said. You should walk away. Take Lila and disappear. Let me handle this alone. We've had this conversation. And we're having it again. Because in 2 hours we're walking into a federal building to face Marcus, to face lawyers and FBI agents and God knows who else. And I don't know how it ends. I don't know if we walk back out. Isabel's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. You have a daughter, a life, a future. I don't have any of that anymore, so please, Ethan, let me do this alone. No. Why not? Give me one good reason why you're still here. Ethan thought about that question, thought about all the reasons he could give. Justice, morality, doing the right thing. But the truth was simpler and more complicated than any of that. Because when my wife was dying, I sat by her bed for 3 days, held her hand, told her stories, made promises I couldn't keep. And when she finally slipped away, I realized I'd been saying goodbye to the wrong person. He met Isabel's eyes. I was saying goodbye to her. But I should have been saying goodbye to the man I was before. The one who thought the world made sense. Who thought being good meant being safe. She took that version of me with her when she died. I don't understand. The man sitting in this room right now, he doesn't exist without that loss, without learning that life is fragile and unfair, and sometimes the only thing you can do is stand up when everyone else sits down. Ethan moved closer. You didn't ask to be saved. You didn't ask for my help, but I gave it anyway. And now I'm going to see this through. Not because you need me, but because I need to know I'm still capable of fighting for something bigger than myself. Isabel stared at him for a long moment. Then she said, You're either the bravest man I've ever met or the stupidest. Probably both. Sarah came back holding a tablet. You need to see this. Marcus just released a statement. She turned the screen toward them. Marcus's face filled it perfectly, composed, perfectly sympathetic. He was standing outside Grant Technologies' microphones thrust in his face. I'm devastated to see Isabel like this. I've been worried about her mental health for months. She's been under tremendous pressure since her mother's death, since her father's diagnosis. I tried to get her help, tried to convince her to see a therapist. But she refused. And now she's making these wild accusations because she's not well, because she needs treatment, not a platform. A reporter shouted a question. What about the financial records she mentioned? The evidence of embezzlement, fabricated, either by Isabel herself or by whoever convinced her to go along with this story. We'll cooperate fully with any investigation. We have nothing to hide. Marcus looked directly into the camera. Isabel, if you're watching this, please, come home. Let us help you. Your father and I, we just want you safe. The video ended. Isabel's face was stone. He's good. I'll give him that. He sounds sincere, caring, like a man who's heartbroken over his fiancée's breakdown. But you have proof. I have bank records and emails. He'll claim they're doctored, edited, taken out of context. He'll have forensic accountants who'll testify the transfers were legitimate. He'll have explanations for everything. Isabel looked at Ethan. We're not just fighting him. We're fighting the entire system that protects men like him. Then we fight harder. At 11:30, they left the station through a back entrance. Sarah had arranged for a security team. 3 large men in suits who looked like they ate nails for breakfast. They escorted Ethan and Isabel into an unmarked van with tinted windows. The drive to the Federal Building took 15 minutes through empty downtown streets. Chicago at night. City of lights and shadows. They passed the warehouse where this all started, dark and silent against the sky. I never want to see that place again, Isabel said. After tonight you won't have to. The Federal Building was fortress, concrete and steel and security checkpoints. They went through metal detectors, ID verification, pat-downs. The FBI wasn't taking chances. An agent named Morrison met them in the lobby, 50s, gray hair, face like a bulldog. He looked at Isabel like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. Ms. Grant, quite the story you told on television. Every word is true. We'll see. Follow me. He led them to a conference room on the 3rd floor, long table, uncomfortable chairs, recording equipment. And sitting at the far end, surrounded by lawyers and aides and medical staff, was Richard Grant. He looked nothing like his pictures. The cancer had hollowed him out, turned him into a shadow of the titan who'd built Grant Technologies. But his eyes were sharp, alert, and when he saw Isabel, they filled with tears. Isabel! She wheeled herself toward him. Ethan had found her a proper wheelchair at the station, something better than the cheap rental they'd been using. She moved faster now, more confident. Richard stood on shaking legs, met her halfway. He dropped to his knees in front of her chair, took her hands in his and sobbed. My girl, my beautiful girl, I thought I'd lost you. I'm here, Daddy. I'm okay. You're not okay. Look at you, your legs. What did he do to your legs? He injected something into my spine, nerve agent. The doctors think it might be permanent. Isabel's voice was steady, despite the tears on her face. But I'm alive. That's what matters. Richard looked up at Ethan. You're the man who found her. Yes, sir. What do you want? Money, a job. Name it and it's yours. I don't want anything. I just wanted to help. Richard studied him like he was looking for the catch. Men like Richard Grant didn't understand kindness without an agenda. But after a moment he nodded. Then you're a better man than most. Thank you for bringing my daughter back to me. Agent Morrison cleared his throat. We need to get started. Ms. Grant, I need you to walk me through everything, from the beginning. And I need to see this evidence you mentioned. They spent the next 2 hours going over every detail. The engagement, the financial records Isabel found, the night Marcus drove her to the warehouse, the injection, the 5 weeks of captivity. Ethan's testimony matched hers perfectly. Same timeline, same facts, same horror. The USB drive was connected to Morrison's laptop. Files appeared on the screen. Bank records showing transfers to offshore accounts. Emails between Marcus and other executives discussing liquidating assets and restructuring ownership. Communications about Isabel being a complication that needed to be resolved. Morrison's expression never changed, but Ethan could see the wheels turning behind his eyes. This is substantial, he said finally. If it's authentic. It's authentic, Isabel said. Everything on that drive came directly from Marcus's computer, from his personal files. He kept records of everything because he's arrogant, because he never thought anyone would catch him. How did you access his computer? Here it was, The moment where they either trusted the system or went to jail. Ethan spoke up. I accessed it, illegally, without a warrant. Which means none of it is admissible in court. Morrison looked at him. That's correct. Fruit of the poisonous tree. A defense attorney would have this thrown out in 5 minutes. But it gives you probable cause, Richard Grant said. His voice was stronger now, more authoritative. You can use this information to get a legitimate warrant. To conduct a proper investigation. My daughter's testimony combined with this evidence is enough to open a case. Maybe. But Marcus Hale has already gone public with his version. He's claiming your daughter is mentally unstable, that she fabricated these accusations. Morrison leaned back in his chair. He's got doctors lined up, character witnesses, and he's filing a defamation lawsuit against Channel 7 for airing what he calls false and damaging statements. Of course he is, Isabel said. That's what men like Marcus do, attack, discredit, bury the truth under legal motions until everyone forgets what really happened. So what do you want from me, Ms. Grant? I want you to investigate. I want you to freeze his accounts. I want you to bring charges. I want justice. Her voice rose. That man tried to murder me. He stole from my father's company. He's a criminal. And he's counting on the fact that money and lawyers will protect him. Prove him wrong. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'll open an investigation. I'll request warrants for his financial records, his communications, his movements over the past 6 weeks. But I need you to understand something, Ms. Grant. This won't be quick. This won't be easy. Men like Marcus Hale don't go down without a fight. He'll tie us up in court for months, maybe years. And there's no guarantee we win. I don't need a guarantee. I just need a chance. You've got it. But in the meantime, you're vulnerable. He knows you're alive. He knows you're talking. He'll try to silence you. Morrison looked at Richard. Can you keep her safe? I have a private security team, former Secret Service. They'll protect her 24/7. Good, because if Marcus decides to finish what he started, he won't be subtle about it. The meeting ended at 2 a.m. Richard insisted Isabel come home with him, to the family estate in Lake Forest, protected, monitored, safe. But Isabel hesitated at the door. She turned to Ethan. Come with me, you and Lila. Stay at the estate until this is over. It's the safest place. I can't. I have a job, a life. I can't just disappear into your world. Your life is in danger because of me, because you helped me. The least I can do is keep you safe. I'll be fine. Tony will look after Lila, and I'll keep my head down. Ethan, I'm not your responsibility, Isabel. I made my choices. Now I live with them. He smiled. Besides, someone needs to keep working at that warehouse. Make sure no one else gets locked in a hidden room. She laughed, but it was hollow. This isn't over. You know that, right? Marcus won't stop. He'll come after you. After your daughter. He'll do whatever it takes to discredit you, to make you disappear. Let him try. Richard spoke up from his wheelchair. Mr. Cole, I'm offering you protection, a place to stay, financial security. Why are you refusing? Because I'm not a charity case, and I'm not interested in being owned by someone, even someone with good intentions. Ethan looked at Richard directly. I helped your daughter because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted something in return. And I'm going back to my life because it's my life, not because I'm stupid or proud, but because it's mine. Richard studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was the first genuine expression Ethan had seen from him all night. You remind me of myself, 30 years ago. Before the money, before the empire, when all I had was stubbornness and principle. He pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back, handed it to Ethan. If you change your mind, if you need anything, call that number, day or night. You saved my daughter's life. That makes you family. Ethan took the card, pocketed it without looking. Thank you, sir. Isabel wheeled herself closer. I won't forget this. What you did. What you risked. When this is over, when Marcus is in prison and my life is back to normal, I'll find you. And I'll make sure you're taken care of. I don't need to be taken care of. Everyone needs something, Ethan. Even heroes. She reached up, took his hand. Thank you. For seeing me when I was invisible. For believing me when no one else would. For being exactly who I needed when I needed it most. You would have done the same for me. I don't know if that's true, but I'd like to think it is. They said goodbye in the parking garage. Richard's security team loaded Isabel into an armored SUV. Ethan watched them drive away, taillights disappearing into the Chicago night. Sarah Chen approached from behind. Hell of a story. Hell of a night. Yeah. What are you going to do now? Go pick up my daughter. Go back to my apartment. Try to pretend the last week didn't happen. You know that's impossible, right? You're famous now. The man who saved Isabel Grant. Every news outlet in the country wants to interview you. Then they'll be disappointed. I'm not interested in being famous. Even if it means a book deal. A movie. Your story is worth millions. Ethan turned to look at her. My story isn't for sale. It's not entertainment. It's about a woman who was tortured and left to die. About a system that protected her abuser. About how close evil came to winning. He started walking toward his truck. If you want to tell that story, tell it. But leave me out of it. The world needs heroes, Mr. Cole. The world needs justice. Heroes are just people who happen to be in the right place at the right time. Or the wrong place. Depends on your perspective. He drove back to Tony's house. The streets were empty. The city was sleeping. By the time he pulled into the driveway, dawn was breaking over the horizon. Tony met him at the door. Lila's asleep in the guest room. She cried herself out around midnight, kept asking if you were coming back. I always come back. This time I wasn't sure. The news made it sound like you were walking into a war zone. Maybe I was, but I walked back out. Ethan moved past Tony into the house. I need to get her home, get back to normal. Normal doesn't exist anymore, brother, not after tonight. They're calling you a hero on CNN, a vigilante on Fox News, a criminal on conservative radio. Nobody agrees on what you are, but everyone's talking about you. Then they'll get bored and talk about something else. That's how news cycles work. You really believe that? Ethan thought about Marcus Hale, about the press conference, about the lawyers and the lawsuits and the war that was just beginning. No, he admitted, but I'm going to act like I do, because the alternative is hiding, and I'm done hiding. He went upstairs to the guest room. Lila was curled up under the covers, her face peaceful in sleep. She looked so small, so innocent, so completely unaware that her life had just changed forever. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, watched her breathe. In and out, the most important sound in the world. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I'm sorry I risked everything, but I'm not sorry I helped her. And I hope someday you'll understand why. Lila stirred, opened her eyes. Daddy. Hey, baby. Time to go home. Is the princess okay? She's safe. She's with her father. She's going to be fine. Lila sat up, rubbed her eyes. The kids at school were talking. They said you're a hero, that you saved someone's life. I just did what anyone would have done. No, most people would have walked away. Mrs. Chen told us that in class. She said most people see problems, and they look the other way because getting involved is scary. But heroes are people who help anyway, even when it's scary. Lila looked at him with those big dark eyes. You're a hero, Daddy. Ethan felt his throat close up. I'm just your dad, baby. That's all I need to be. Can you be both? I don't know. But I'm going to try. They drove home as the sun rose over Chicago. The city was waking up, people heading to work, kids walking to school, life continuing like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Ethan could feel it in the air. In the way people looked at his truck when he stopped at red lights. In the news vans still camped outside his apartment building. In the phone calls flooding his voicemail from lawyers and reporters and people who wanted a piece of his story. The quiet life he'd built after his wife died was gone. Whether he wanted it or not, he was part of something bigger now. Part of Isabel's story. Part of the war against Marcus Hale. And somewhere in the city, Marcus was planning his next move. Preparing his counterattack. Gathering his resources for the fight ahead. Ethan parked outside his apartment, looked up at the windows. Home. Safety. Normal. Except nothing would ever be normal again. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Cole. Marcus Hale's voice was smooth as silk. I think it's time we met face to face. Just the two of us. No lawyers, no FBI, no cameras. Just a conversation between two men who both want what's best for Isabel. I have nothing to say to you. But I have a lot to say to you. About your daughter. About your future. About the choices you're going to have to make in the coming weeks. Marcus paused. Riverside Distribution Center. The warehouse where this all started. 8 p.m. tonight. Come alone or don't come at all. But if you want to protect Lila, you'll be there. The line went dead. Ethan sat in his truck, hands shaking, mind racing. Marcus wanted a meeting. In the place where Ethan had found Isabel. Where this nightmare began. It was a trap. Obviously a trap. Only an idiot would walk into it. But Marcus had mentioned Lila. Had made it clear that she was vulnerable. That Ethan had to choose between his daughter's safety and his own. There was no choice. There had never been a choice. He looked at Lila in the passenger seat, still half asleep, trusting him completely to keep her safe. Daddy, what's wrong? Nothing, baby. Everything's fine. You're lying. I can tell when you're lying. Your voice gets weird. Smart kid. The smartest. So tell me the truth. What's wrong? Ethan took a breath. The bad man. The one who hurt the princess. He wants to talk to me. Are you going to talk to him? I have to. To make sure he doesn't hurt anyone else. Lila processed this. Then she said, in my storybook, when the knight faces the dragon, he takes his sword. Do you have a sword? Daddy? Not exactly. Then what are you going to use? The truth, and the hope that it's enough. Will it be enough? I don't know, baby, but I'm going to find out. Ethan spent the day preparing like a man getting ready for war. He took Lila back to Tony's house, made his brother promise to keep her there, no matter what happened. Tony didn't ask questions this time, just pulled Ethan into a tight hug and said, "Come back alive, you idiot." He called Agent Morrison, told him about Marcus's invitation. Morrison wanted to send a team, wanted to wire Ethan with recording equipment, wanted to turn it into a sting operation. Ethan refused. If Marcus suspected FBI involvement, he'd disappear. Or worse, he'd make good on his threats against Lila. This is insane, Morrison said. He's going to kill you. Maybe. But he's also arrogant. He thinks he can talk his way out of anything. I'm betting he wants to make a deal, wants to buy my silence. And if you're wrong, then you'll have a body to investigate. Should make your case easier. Morrison didn't laugh. I'm putting surveillance on the warehouse. Distant surveillance. If something goes wrong, we'll move in. Not until I give you a signal. I need to hear what he has to say. What signal? You'll know it when you see it. At 7:30, Ethan drove to Riverside Distribution Center. The same building where this had all started a week ago. It felt like a lifetime. The parking lot was empty except for a black Mercedes parked near the main entrance. Marcus's car. Ethan checked his phone. One message from Isabel. Don't do this, please. He'll kill you and make it look like an accident. I can't lose you too. He typed back. Some fights you can't walk away from. Take care of yourself, princess. J. He hit send, turned off his phone, and got out of the truck. The warehouse door was unlocked. Inside, emergency lights cast long shadows across the empty floor. Ethan's footsteps echoed as he walked through the space he'd patrolled every night for 2 years. It felt different now, haunted by what had happened here. Mr. Cole, right on time. Marcus stepped out from behind a stack of pallets. He looked exactly like he had on television. Perfect suit, perfect hair, perfect smile. Thank you for coming. I didn't have much choice. You threatened my daughter. I simply stated facts. Lila is vulnerable. Child Protective Services could easily be convinced that a single father working night shifts at a warehouse isn't providing adequate care, especially when that father is involved in corporate espionage and harboring a fugitive. Marcus walked closer, hands in his pockets. Relaxed, confident. But it doesn't have to come to that. We're both reasonable men. We can find a solution that works for everyone. There's no solution where you don't go to prison. Prison? Marcus laughed. For what Isabel's wild accusations, evidence obtained illegally that will never see a courtroom, Mr. Cole. You're not stupid. You know how the world works. Money buys lawyers. Lawyers buy time. Time buries stories. 6 months from now, no one will remember Isabel Grant's breakdown. They'll remember me as the devoted fiancé who stood by her despite her mental illness. The FBI is investigating you. Let them investigate. They'll find carefully constructed paper trails, legitimate business transactions, consulting fees, nothing illegal, nothing prosecutable. Marcus stopped a few feet away. I've been planning this for 3 years. Do you really think I left evidence lying around for a janitor to find? Isabel has bank records, emails, communications with your accomplices, all of which can be explained, all of which were part of legitimate corporate restructuring approved by the board. Richard Grant is dying. The company needs leadership. I was preparing to step in when the time came. That's not a crime. That's succession planning. Ethan felt cold certainty settling in his stomach. Marcus had thought of everything. Every angle. Every defense. What about Isabel? What about what you did to her? I didn't do anything to Isabel. She disappeared 5 weeks ago after exhibiting increasingly erratic behavior. I searched for her, offered rewards, cooperated with police. I'm the victim here. Marcus tilted his head. As for her current condition, well, trauma does strange things to the mind. She's convinced herself of a narrative that makes her the hero instead of accepting that she had a breakdown. It's sad, really. I still care about her. I want her to get help. You tried to kill her. Prove it. Show me one piece of evidence that connects me to her disappearance. One witness who saw me take her to that warehouse. One text message. One email. One anything. Marcus smiled. You can't, because it doesn't exist. I'm very good at what I do, Mr. Cole. Then why are we here? If you're so confident, why meet with me at all? Because you're a problem. A sympathetic problem. The noble janitor who saved the damsel in distress. The single father trying to do the right thing. People love that story. And as long as you're telling it, as long as you're supporting Isabel's delusions, the narrative stays alive. Marcus pulled an envelope from his jacket. So I'm here to offer you a better story. One where you're the hero who gets a happy ending. He handed Ethan the envelope. Inside was a check. Ethan stared at the number, trying to process all the zeros. $5 million. That's a lot of money for a man in your position, Marcus said. Enough to quit your job. Move to a better neighborhood. Send Lila to private school. Maybe even buy a house with a yard. All the things you couldn't give her after your wife died. You want to buy my silence? I want to buy your future. There's a difference. Marcus walked around Ethan, slowly circling like a shark. You're not a bad man. You're not even a stupid man. You just made a mistake. You got involved in something you didn't understand. But it's not too late to fix it. Take the money. Recant your statement to the FBI. Say you were confused. Say Isabel manipulated you. Say whatever you need to say to walk away clean. And if I don't, then I destroy you. I file lawsuits. I press charges for breaking into my office, for corporate espionage, for kidnapping. I tie you up in legal proceedings for years. You'll lose your job, your apartment, eventually your daughter, because you won't be able to afford a lawyer to fight Child Protective Services when they come. Marcus stopped in front of him. Or you could take the money, disappear, start over. Let Isabel fight her own battles with her own resources. You've done enough. You've played the hero. Now it's time to think about your daughter. Ethan looked at the check. $5 million. More money than he'd make in 10 lifetimes. More than enough to give Lila everything he'd ever wanted for her. How do I know you'll leave us alone? How do I know you won't come after us anyway? Because I don't need to. Without your testimony, Isabel's story falls apart. She's just a disturbed woman making accusations. The FBI investigation goes nowhere. Life goes back to normal. Marcus extended his hand. We have a deal. Ethan looked at that hand. Perfectly manicured. Designer watch. The hand of a man who'd never worked a day in his life. Who'd never struggled or sacrificed or gone without. The hand of a man who'd left Isabel to die alone in the dark. I have a counteroffer, Ethan said. I'm listening. You confess, everything. What you did to Isabel. The embezzlement. All of it. You turn yourself in. You plead guilty. And maybe, just maybe, when you're sitting in prison, you'll remember what it felt like to be powerless. Marcus's smile never wavered. That's not going to happen. Then we don't have a deal. You're making a mistake. Probably. But it's my mistake to make. Ethan ripped the check in half. Then in half again. Let the pieces fall to the concrete floor. I'm not for sale. Neither is the truth. Marcus's expression finally changed. The smile disappeared. What replaced it was cold and empty and dangerous. I tried to do this the easy way. I gave you a chance to walk away with your dignity intact, but you're too stupid to take it. He pulled out his phone. One call, that's all it takes. One call to Child Protective Services. One call to the police. One call to make sure you never see your daughter again. Make the call. You think I'm bluffing? I think you're a coward who hides behind lawyers and money because you've never had to fight for anything in your life. I think you're terrified that Isabel survived. That she's talking, that everything you built is about to come crashing down. Ethan stepped closer. And I think you brought me here to kill me, to stage an accident, to eliminate the one witness who can corroborate her story. But you can't do it yourself, because you're not a killer. You're just a man who pays other people to get his hands dirty. Marcus's jaw tightened. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. I know you're the kind of man who leaves a woman paralyzed in a locked room, who steals from a dying man, who threatens children to protect himself. That tells me everything I need to know. I gave you a chance. And I'm giving you one. Turn yourself in. Face what you did. Or spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder waiting for justice to catch up. Marcus laughed. Not his practiced, polished laugh. Something darker, more real. Justice, you actually believe in that. How quaint. He turned toward the door. You're going to regret this, Mr. Cole. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But soon. When you're in court answering charges. When you're watching your daughter cry as they take her away. When you're sitting in a cell wondering why you threw away $5 million for a woman who'll forget you exist the moment this is over. You'll regret it. Maybe. But I'll still be able to look at myself in the mirror. Marcus walked toward the exit, stopped at the threshold. One more thing. Isabel will never walk again. I made sure of that. The nerve damage is permanent, irreversible. She'll spend the rest of her life in that wheelchair remembering what I took from her. And there's nothing you or anyone else can do about it. Except make sure you pay for it. I never pay, Mr. Cole. Other people pay. That's how the world works. Marcus stepped into the darkness outside. "Good luck with your principals. I hope they keep you warm at night." He was gone. The sound of the Mercedes engine starting, tires on gravel, silence. Ethan stood in the empty warehouse, heart-pounding, hands shaking. He'd done it. He'd refused the money. He'd stood up to Marcus Hale, and now he had to live with the consequences. He pulled out his phone, turned it back on. 17 missed calls, most from Agent Morrison. He dialed. "Did you get it?" Ethan asked. "Every word. We had directional microphones. Audio's a little rough but usable. His admission about the nerve damage is particularly damning." "Is it enough?" "To arrest him. Maybe. To convict him. That's harder. A good lawyer will argue he was speaking hypothetically, that he was trying to provoke you. But combined with everything else, it builds a case." Morrison paused. "You did good, Cole. Refusing the money, getting him to talk. That took guts. Or stupidity. Still haven't figured out which. Can I ask you something? Why did you do it? Why risk everything for a woman you barely know?" Ethan thought about that question. Really thought about it. "Because someone had to. Because she asked for help, and I was there to give it. Because maybe, just maybe, doing the right thing still matters in this world." He looked around the warehouse one last time. "And because my daughter was watching. I needed her to see that her father was someone worth believing in." "You're a good man, Cole." "I'm just a man who happened to be in the right place at the wrong time. Or maybe the wrong place at the right time. Still figuring that out too." He hung up, walked out of the warehouse. Outside, dawn was breaking. Again. Another day. Another chance. His phone rang. Isabel. "You're alive," she said, relief flooding her voice. "Apparently. Morrison told me what happened, what you did, refusing the money, getting his confession." She was crying. "You could have walked away. You could have taken the $5 million and disappeared. Why didn't you?" "Because that's not who I am. And it's not who I want Lila to think I am." "You're an idiot." "So everyone keeps telling me." "But you're my idiot, and I'm never letting you forget that you saved my life twice. Once in that warehouse, and again tonight when you refused to let Marcus buy the truth." Isabel took a shaky breath. "The FBI just called my father. They're issuing a warrant for Marcus's arrest, embezzlement, attempted murder, conspiracy. They're going after everyone involved. His lawyers, the CFO, the board members, everyone." "Will it stick?" "Maybe. Probably. I don't know. But we're going to fight, all of us, together. Until Marcus Hale is behind bars or we run out of options." She paused. "My father wants to meet with you. Tomorrow. He wants to thank you properly. He wants to offer you a position at the company. Vice President of Security. 6-figure salary. Full benefits. A future." "Isabel. Just listen. I know you don't want charity. I know you value your independence. But this isn't charity. This is recognition. This is acknowledgement that you're more than a janitor who happened to find me. You're someone who fought when everyone else would have run. Someone who believed in justice when it would have been easier to believe in money. That's the kind of person my father needs. That's the kind of person I need." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Please, let me do this for you. Let me give you something better than night shifts and a 1-bedroom apartment. Let me show you that doing the right thing doesn't always mean suffering for it." Ethan closed his eyes. Thought about Lila. About the life he could give her with that kind of job. Private school. College fund. A house with a yard and a dog and everything he'd dreamed of providing. "I'll think about it," he said finally. "That's all I'm asking. Jay, how are you doing? Really doing?" "I'm angry. I'm scared. I'm exhausted. But I'm alive. And I'm fighting. That's all I can do right now." She laughed softly. The doctors say my legs might recover. Partial function. Maybe enough to walk with assistance. It'll take years of physical therapy, surgery, pain. But there's hope. That's more than I had a week ago. You're stronger than you know. So are you, Ethan Cole. So are you. They talked for another hour. About Marcus. About the case. About what came next. And slowly, as the sun rose over Chicago, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt since his wife died. Hope. Not certainty. Not confidence. Just the quiet, stubborn hope that maybe things could get better. That maybe fighting for the truth was worth it. That maybe heroes weren't born. They were just ordinary people who decided to stand up when sitting down was easier. 3 months later, Marcus Hale went to trial. The prosecution presented bank records, emails, testimony from accomplices who'd turned on him to save themselves. They presented Isabel's testimony, Ethan's testimony, the recording from the warehouse, evidence that was circumstantial but overwhelming in its totality. The defense fought back, called character witnesses, presented their own financial experts, tried to paint Isabel as unstable and Ethan as a fame seeker looking for a payday. The trial lasted 8 weeks. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Guilty on all counts. Ethan watched from the gallery as Marcus was led away in handcuffs. Watched the man who'd thought himself untouchable finally face consequences. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like exhaustion. Like the end of a war nobody really won. But it felt like justice. And maybe that was enough. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Ethan pushed through them without comment. He'd learned to ignore the cameras, to ignore the questions, to just live his life despite the attention. Isabel was waiting by his truck. She was standing, leaning heavily on a walker, legs trembling with the effort, but standing. "You're walking," Ethan said. "Barely. But yes. The surgery worked. Physical therapy is hell, but I'm getting there." She smiled. "I wanted you to see, wanted you to know that everything you fought for, everything you risked, it mattered. I'm healing. The company is healing. We're all healing because you refused to look away. I just did what anyone. Don't diminish what you did. You saved my life. You gave me a chance to fight back. You proved that money doesn't always win. That's not nothing, Ethan. That's everything." Lila came running from across the street where Tony had been keeping her during the verdict. She hugged Ethan tight. "Did we win, Daddy?" "Yeah, baby, we won." "Good. Because the princess needs us to be happy. Mrs. Chen says that's how fairy tales end. Everyone gets to be happy." Ethan looked at Isabel, at his daughter, at the life he'd built from the ashes of loss and tragedy. "Your teacher's right. That is how fairy tales end." But this wasn't a fairy tale. This was real life, messy and complicated and never quite as clean as the stories. Marcus would appeal. The fight would continue. There would be more trials, more testimony, more battles to fight. But tonight, standing in the Chicago sunshine with his daughter's hand in his, and a woman he'd saved smiling at him, Ethan allowed himself to believe in happy endings. Not because they were guaranteed, but because they were possible. And sometimes possibility was all you needed to keep going. "Come on," Isabel said. "My father's throwing a celebration dinner. Fancy restaurant, open bar, the works. You're the guest of honor." "I'm not really a fancy restaurant kind of guy." "Then it's time you became one. You're the new VP of Security at Grant Technologies. 6-figure salary. Corner office. You start Monday." "I never said I'd take the job." "You didn't say no either. And I took that as a yes." Isabel grinned. "Besides, we need someone honest. Someone who can't be bought. Someone who'll do the right thing even when it costs everything. You're the only person I trust with that responsibility." Ethan looked at Lila. "What do you think, baby, should Daddy take the fancy job? Does it have a big desk? Probably. And a secretary? Maybe. And do you have to wear a suit? Definitely. Lila wrinkled her nose. You'll look silly in a suit. But okay, take the job. As long as you promise you'll still be my daddy, not some fancy businessman who forgets about me. I promise. You're always going to be the most important person in my life, fancy job or not. Then it's settled. Isabel started walking toward her car, each step careful but determined. Dinner at 7. Don't be late. And Ethan, thank you. For everything. For being exactly who I needed when I needed it most. For proving that good people still exist in this world. For giving me a reason to fight when I wanted to give up. You would have fought anyway. You're too stubborn not to. Maybe. But it's easier to fight when you're not alone. She drove away. Tony clapped Ethan on the shoulder. You did good, little brother. Mom would be proud. You think so? I know so. You took on a billionaire and won. You saved a life. You showed Lila what it means to have principles. That's the kind of thing people remember. Tony pulled him into a hug. I'm proud of you too, even if you are an idiot. Runs in the family. That night at the fancy restaurant Isabel had chosen, surrounded by people in expensive clothes, drinking expensive wine. Ethan felt out of place. He wore the only suit he owned, bought 5 years ago for his wife's funeral. It didn't quite fit anymore. The tie was wrong. His shoes were scuffed. But Lila sat next to him in a new dress Isabel had bought her, and she was smiling. Really smiling. The kind of smile that said life was good and the future was bright. And across the table, Isabel raised her glass in a toast. To Ethan Cole, the man who looked into the darkness and chose to bring light. The man who had every reason to walk away and every excuse to do nothing. But instead, he did everything. He saved a life. He fought for justice. He proved that one person can make a difference. She smiled through tears. To heroes, to fathers, to the good men who still exist in this complicated, messy, beautiful world. Thank you, Ethan, for giving me my life back. Everyone drank. Everyone applauded. And Ethan sat there uncomfortable and embarrassed and completely out of his depth, but also happy. Maybe happier than he'd been since his wife died. Because he'd done something that mattered. He'd made a choice that changed lives. His own, Isabel's, even Lila's. And maybe, just maybe, that was what life was really about. Not the big moments, not the grand gestures. Just the small, terrifying decisions to help when it would be easier to hurt. To stand when it would be safer to sit. To believe in something bigger than yourself, even when the whole world says you're wrong. Later that night, after the dinner ended and the guests went home, after Lila fell asleep in the back seat of his truck, Ethan drove back to Riverside Distribution Center one last time. He stood in the parking lot, looking at the building where everything had started. The place where a broken woman's whisper for help had changed the trajectory of his entire life. Thank you, he said to the empty air, to his wife, to God, to fate, to whatever force had put him in that warehouse at exactly the right moment. Thank you for letting me be the one who found her. Thank you for giving me a chance to be someone Lila can be proud of. Thank you for reminding me that life isn't over just because it's hard. He got back in his truck, looked at his sleeping daughter in the rearview mirror and smiled. Tomorrow, he'd start his new job. Tomorrow, he'd figure out how to be the man Isabel and Richard Grant thought he was. Tomorrow, he'd face whatever came next with courage he didn't know he had. But tonight, he was just a single dad driving home through Chicago with his daughter safe beside him, and a story he'd tell her someday when she was old enough to understand. A story about a princess in the dark, and a janitor who refused to walk away, and a fight for justice that proved the truth still mattered in a world built on lies. It wasn't a perfect ending. It wasn't a clean ending, but it was their ending, and that made it beautiful.